In this movie, I'll demonstrate how the scale tool, along with the other old school transformation tools, allow you to uniquely set the origin point, which is the center of the transformation. So to give you a sense of what I mean, I'll go ahead and select the dynamic object here. And then here inside the appearance panel, I'll click on the word transform in order to bring up the transform effect dialog box. And notice if I turn on the preview checkbox, we are currently transforming this shape about its center point, as indicated by this little reference point matrix right there. But I can change that if I want to. I could transform with respect to a side, like so, or either the top or the bottom, or I could select one of the corners. But that's it. That's all the control I have. Otherwise, if I want to scoot that point elsewhere, then I would need to invoke these move values. For example, I could set the horizontal value to -10 and a vertical value to -10 as well in order to scoot that guy up a little bit. At which point, I'll go ahead and click OK to accept that change. Compare that to the behavior of the scale tool. I'll go ahead and click on this static shape in order to select it, and then I'll switch to the scale tool. Once again, you can do so by pressing the S key if you like. And notice right there that we have this little target. Can you see that right there in the center? And that indicates the default transformation origin, which always starts out in the center of the shape. And so there's a couple of ways now that I can use the scale tool, that is actually drag with it inside the document window. The first way is exactly that. I could just begin dragging. And in order to make the best use of this tool, you want to start 45 degrees away from the transformation origin. So you want to move up and to the left, for example, and you want to move pretty far away. And I'll demonstrate why in a moment. But I'm going to start up left like so, and then I'll begin dragging. And notice if you drag toward the origin, you're going to make the shape smaller. And if you drag away from the origin, you're going to make it larger. And of course, you can squish it if you want or make it taller. It's entirely up to you. But it's always a good idea to begin dragging 45 degrees in any direction, by the way. It could be 45 degrees over here or over here, doesn't matter. And you want to stay pretty far away from that origin point. Because notice if I'm close in, like so, and I'm not really 45 degrees away, then I'm going to make huge differences very rapidly. So tiny movements of my mouse are going to have a big impact on this shape. You also have the option of constraining the proportions as you drag, and you do that by dragging, as I was doing before, and then while you're dragging, go ahead and press and hold the Shift key, and that will constrain the proportions. The other thing you can do with the Shift key is you can begin dragging horizontally, that is from the origin point like so, and then press the Shift key in order to constrain your scale to exclusively horizontal, as you're seeing me do right now, or you can start above and drag while pressing the Shift key to constrain your scale to exclusively vertical. The thing is, in every one of these cases, we're just accepting that default transformation origin right there in the center of the shape. But you don't have to work that way. If you want to move the origin, then don't begin dragging, click instead. So let's say I want to scale with respect to the intersection of the two center guides. I'll go ahead and click right there, and that moves my target to this location. It's a little bit hard to see, but there it is. After which point, I would move my cursor once again 45 degrees away from that origin point, not the shape itself, but rather the origin. And then I would begin dragging. And in this case, I'm pressing the Shift key as I drag toward the origin. And notice that's going to make the shape smaller. At some point, I'm going to flip it as soon as I move past the origin point. If I don't want that to happen, then I need to stay on this side. Or, of course, I could make the shape bigger. And in this case, I'm making it exclusively horizontally bigger. That happens sometimes when you have the Shift key down. If you'd rather it was proportionally larger, then I just need to move my cursor up a little bit like so. And because I have my Smart Guides turned on, I can see the degree to which I'm scaling the shape in that heads-up display. All right, this time I'm going to click to set the origin right about there. And by the way, if you change your mind and you want to move it to a different location, then you can just drag it around as you're seeing me do now. All right, another option that's available to you is to duplicate the shape as you scale it, and you do that by, once again, dragging from 45 degrees away, just for the most control once again. And in my case, I'm making the shape smaller, and then you press and hold the Alt key or the Option key on the Mac. at which point you'll see that double arrowhead cursor, which is showing you that you're going to make a duplicate. If you want the duplicate to be scaled proportionally, then press and hold the Shift key as well. So I currently have both the Shift and Alt keys down. That would be the Shift and Option keys down on the Mac. And notice that the new shape appears in front of the old one. That's just something to bear in mind. Compare that, by the way, with the behavior of a dynamic transformation. If I go ahead and click on this guy in order to select him, and of course there he is in a different spot than I anticipated, but now I'll go ahead and click on the word transform inside the appearance panel. If I turn on the preview checkbox and make copies of this shape like so, you can see that the copies appear in back of the original. And to make that even more clear, I'll switch the origin point to the center of this little reference point matrix. So in other words, it's exactly the opposite. Transform puts the copies in back, whereas the scale tool puts the copies in front. But because they're static shapes, you can change the stacking order to any extent you like just by right-clicking in the document window, choosing Arrange, and in my case, for example, choosing Send to Back. All right, there's just one more trick you should know. I'll go ahead and select this shape with my black arrow tool. Then I'll switch back to the scale tool. You can also set the origin point and bring up the scale dialog box by pressing the Alt key here on the PC or the Option key on the Mac. And notice what happens. Your cursor goes from being a standard cross cursor to being a cross with 3 dots after it. And that tells you that you're going to bring up a dialog box. So just go ahead and Alt-click in order to set your origin and bring up the scale dialog box. Notice there's the origin point right there. And then go ahead and enter your desired percentage value, such as, in my case, 120%, let's say. And then click OK if you want to scale the actual shape. Or if you want to scale a duplicate, go ahead and click on the Copy button. You also have that keyboard shortcut of Alt-Enter on the PC or Option-Return on the Mac in order to invoke copy like so. And it's a little hard to see that this happened because I'm covering up the original shape. So I'll just go ahead and press the V key to switch to my black arrow tool, and I'll drag this guy to a different location. And that's how you set the transformation origin, which represents the center about which the transformation occurs, either by clicking, for example, using the scale tool, or by Alt or Option clicking to bring up a dialog box here inside Illustrator.